Hello, folks. Good to be with the ladies of Baraka once again. I've got a strange title for these thoughts. I like titles, as you know. And it's this: Heads I win, tails you lose. A verse from St. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 11. At that time, Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for this was your good pleasure. Going back to my title, is it just me, or are there in reality atheistic and humanistic forces at work in our country doing their best to undermine religious faith? It seems to me that the polite indifference is being replaced by a hostile attack against all religious faith. Apart from the seemingly evangelical endeavours of Richard Hawkins and the more subtle novels of Philip Pullman, there's hardly a scientific documentary or popular program about the natural world that doesn't have some reference to evolution and subsequently a dig at creationism. The objective seems to produce a sense of awe at scientific understanding and progress, and an ever-decreasing sense of awe in the work of a non-existent creator. No one's absolutely sure, but it is believed that the Jesuits were responsible for the saying, "Give me a child until 7, and I will show you the man." Richard Dawkins makes reference to this saying in his book, The God Delusion. In this context, he seemingly derides this kind of indoctrination, while doing his best to influence what is taught in our schools. A good case of heads I win, tails you lose. According to the beloved theory of Dawkins and his associates, evolution must lead man or woman to a godlike destiny, unless interrupted by some kind of cataclysm. It must lead to some being bigger, better, more intelligent than any other. But who is to say that it has not happened already? From my way off theological days at college, I remember a definition of St. Anselm. And his definition of God was, if I remember correctly, id quo nihil maius cogitari possit, being translated, that being than which no greater can be conceived. It becomes obvious that this is a debate that no one can satisfactorily win because of faith. Yes, religious people, including Christians, are people of faith. Then so are atheists. We happen to have faith in Jesus Christ, or other religions, in Buddha or Allah, etc., whereas atheists have faith in their own reasoning. The truth is, both sides can say with some vestige of confidence, heads I win, tails you lose. Let's move on and think for a little while about Jesus' position. The old King James Bible reads in the verse which I began with, "At that time Jesus answered and said," begging the question, who had been talking to him? And the passage goes on, "I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth." In the New International Version, it reads, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth." And the simple answer is that God the Father had been talking with his Son. There's an interesting Greek word here, which is translated in the old King James Version as thank, and then the more recent translation, praise. But it's more complex than that. It's the word exomologomai, and that means I fully agree with you. This was a silent conversation between father and son. And we can only look at the context. Jesus had been addressing a crowd of people, speaking about John the Baptist. Jesus said, "To what can I compare this generation? They're like children sitting in the marketplace, calling out to others, 'We played the flute for you, and you didn't dance. We sang a dirge, and you didn't mourn. Heads, you win. Tails, we lose.'" Jesus went on to demonstrate how the establishment accused John of having a demon, despite his frugal lifestyle. And now they were accusing Jesus of being a glutton and a drunkard because he associated with non-establishment people. Heads they win, tails he loses. How ironic that Jesus used the illustration of children to demonstrate the blindness of the establishment. Even more ironic and telling is his eventual indictment of the establishment. "I agree with you, Father. You have hidden these things, the truth about me, from the so-called wise and prudent, and yet revealed the truth about me to so-called little children." There's a remarkable saying in the Talmud, which was the central text of rabbinic Judaism, dating from as early as the 2nd century. Part of it reads like this. Rabbi Yochanan said, "From the time in which the temple was destroyed, wisdom was taken away from the prophets and given to fools and children." And it goes on to say, "In the days of the Messiah, every species of wisdom, even the most profound, shall be revealed, and this even to children." Jesus is reminding us that there is and always will be a major difference between science and religion, Judaism and Christianity in particular. Science, for the greater part, relies on discovery, while Judaism and Christianity rely on revelation. When I was in active ministry, although I can't strictly define what I do now as passive, I used to visit a very pleasant manor house called Mawarden Court in Stratford sub-Castle, just outside of Salisbury City. It once belonged to Thomas Pitt, father of William the Elder, who lived there as a boy. When William had become Earl of Chatham, he went on one occasion to hear the Reverend Richard Cecil preach. When they were leaving the church, the great statesman Pitt confessed to his companion that he hadn't understood much of the sermon, going on to say that he supposed none of the congregation could understand it either. But his companion answered, "Why, yes, there were many plain, unlettered women and some children there who understood every word of it and heard it with joy." I have to say that several years of theological study did nothing to add to my faith, for which I'm eternally grateful. That faith came to me when I was a child, as the simple message of the gospel was shared with me. The truth is that at whatever age the good news is shared to us, it needs to be accepted with childlike trust. Thank God that it doesn't need to be verified scientifically or empirically. The Christian life is not a life of discovery, rather an ongoing revelation, during which we learn more about our Creator, our Saviour, our world, and humanity in general. Not all of our questions will be answered. Sometimes life will appear as though we're looking at a piece of embroidery from the back, a series of threads without any pattern. Faith tells us that when we see it from the other side, it will become clear. Until then, as one of my mentors used to say, never give up till you go up. Amen.